This is a mystery PC. I say mystery for two reasons. The first is that I found it on eBay and I don't know what's on it. Don't ask me exactly why I bought it, but there was something incredibly nostalgic about that case. It had been sitting in my basket for a couple of months, and despite the fairly high price tag, I needed to rehome it and do something with that dormant but exciting hardware. The second is because it's a mishmash of parts. This case, that CD-ROM drive, the turbo button. It doesn't fit. The mystery deepens when you realise that an AMD K5 100MHz processor lies at the core of this beast. It's clear that this PC has a story. Like many PCs, it's evolved with the owner. That yellowing isn't discoloration by the hands of UV radiation, it's a part of this machine's life. Those cracks around the plastic aren't brittle plastic yielding to the unforgiving metal frame. It's an intertwining and evolution of the case. That dirt in the corner of the floppy drive and around the buttons isn't everyday filth, it's... yeah, alright. It is, and that broken plastic is actually a result of the absolutely inadequate packaging used to send this thing from Hungary to the UK. Because that's where this metal creation hails from. You can see the badge says Ready Computers 1054 Budapest, which is of course the nation's capital city. Why it has a cheese sticker on the side, I have no idea, but there's no denying that this thing looks like the epitome of 90s retro. All of the 90s in one box. Opening her up reveals the timeless circuitry, ready to fire up once more. I mean, there's also a loose speaker knocking about, but you can see from where it fell. For now, I'll just disconnect it. Here's the AMD K5 secured onto a small heatsink and fan. Connecting it to the outside world is an Intel PCI set chipset and a 1995 award BIOS. The PCI and ISA slots are mostly bare, save for a faithful Trident TVGA 9000i video card. An incredibly common range of cards on basic PCs, and actually the very first video card I had myself. Housed in the top expansion bay is that mighty 52 times LG CD-ROM drive. Interestingly, both the CD-ROM and 270MB Connor hard drive underneath are set up as primary and secondary IDE master devices. No slaves here. Incidentally, Connor peripherals were acquired by Seagate in 1996. Bit of trivia for you. All of this splendour is powered by a JNC power supply, packing a beefy 200 watts of pure, raw power. Okay, we'll need a monitor to find out what secrets lie within. This Dell Trinitron will do more than nicely, as will this IBM keyboard. There are no PS2 or USB ports here, just a good old-fashioned DIN connector for the keyboard and serial connectors for whatever else takes your fancy. With everything ready, the first problem I encountered was the power switch. It's obviously taken a hefty knock in transport, which has moved the switch away from the plastic casing. Pressing it delivers no response and no feedback. Still, I can undo this screw and then click the switch from here, and there we have the sweet sounds of a 90s PC booting. Listen to that hard drive spin up. The sounds of the floppy drive. Obviously there's no BIOS beep as I disconnected the speaker, but it matters not, for all is well. 64MB of RAM means the triple memory check takes a worthy amount of time. But then we're in. Well, actually, Windows 95 didn't seem to like the turbo button being unpressed. But a click and a reboot and we're good to go. Now, the turbo button was actually designed to slow faster machines down to run older DOS software. You know, ones without decent speed compensation. But it would be incredibly rare to find one on a Pentium-era machine. They were generally found on 386 hardware, possibly the odd 486, which tells me that this machine has almost certainly been expanded past its years. Actually, before we get back to it, let's have a look at the BIOS. Ah, yes. Look at all those legacy options. I remember spending hours playing in this exact BIOS with these settings. The options fill me with excitement and possibility just looking at them. This was the early days of plug and play, and it excited the crap out of me. You had to set aside your options for legacy cards and the like, amazing stuff. Anyway, back to Windows loading. I don't know who set this Windows 95 colour scheme, but whoever it was an absolute masochist. My first problem is that I think all my mice or mouses are PS2 or USB. So this might have been game over for the time being, but then I remembered that hideous Star Trek mouse from a few weeks back, and we're good to go. Rather appropriate screensaver for this device actually. Obviously we're booting into a different language environment as well. We can change some region stuff in the settings, but to change the OS base language we'd have to do a reinstall, or reset up at least. Still, it matters not, we can muddle our way around. In terms of resolution, we're operating at good old 640 by 480 in 256 colours. Who needs more than that? We could up it, but you know, this resolution feels kind of homely. So time to nose about. Immediately in the root directory, a Simpson image, not Simpson. Turns out it's a guy on a motorcycle. Oh, look. Before I continue, I need to change these colours. It's like being stuck in a pie. That'll do, that's a bit better at least. So apparently media files are outside the scope of this thing. Probably an unsupported format or missing codec. Anyway, we've got all the usual Windows programs here. Paint, WordPad, Wolfenstein 3D. Now we're talking. Actually, it's Spear of Destiny demo, the sequel to Wolfenstein. Completely devoid of sound, of course, given both the PC speaker is disconnected and there is no sound card whatsoever, which is a bit strange given the rest of this build, although we do have quite a basic video card, I guess. I was having troubles with the controls, and it turns out I wasn't joking when I said this guy was a masochist. The bloody fire key has been set to M. Who even does that? Anyway, the game runs fine, you know, it's Spear of Destiny. It would have no troubles running on a 386. At this point it seemed better to exit to DOS, as finding things under Windows 95 can be a pain. Of course, the main problem here is that the keyboard is set up for a different country, but a few lines in the config.sys and autoexec.bat straighten that out. We've still got the wrong installation language, but at least the keyboard works as it should. To be honest, the only obvious DOS program I found, simply entitled C, tried to run at a resolution too low for this monitor. So let's go back to Windows. I'm presuming it was probably C Quest. I thought I'd try it in a window within Windows, but 95 was having none of it. But then I noticed another folder in the C directory. OMG. Have we just stumbled across some 90s objectivity right here? Within the suspect directory, we have a pictures folder, then Decadence, then KO, and then we find the folders of truth. I don't know if this guy was trying to hide stuff as deep in the directory tree as possible, but if he was, then why call the first folder this? It kind of gives it away, mate. So these are all JPEG images. The machine won't open them, and Paint can only deal in bitmap or PCX formats, so time to copy some files across to floppy. Just to be fair, I thought I'd take an array of files. Some of that. Yeah, some of that. Oh, yeah, why not? Great. And after loading them up on my PC, I can indeed confirm filth. Oh, hello. Yeah, it's what we thought, chaps, of course it is, but I'm not going to display any here or indeed mention it by name because this is YouTube and this isn't the time or the place. But I will say that all these files came from 1997 or thereabouts, and most are from sizzle.com, which is now defunct. Probably for good reason. So I don't think we're going to top that little find, but it did make me want to search deeper and for other suspect directories. All I really found was Doom disguised as Toka Touring Car Championship for whatever reason. Maybe Tibby was happy to keep his explicit photo collection for all to see, but wanted to cover up when he was playing a game with demons. Who can possibly tell? All I do know is he managed to screw the controls up on Doom as well. Doom runs fine, even under Windows, although why it's hidden in this bizarre directory is beyond me. There didn't seem to be anything else of value in there. There were a few more interesting programs on here, or skeletons of programs. Daytona didn't work because it was missing some sort of library, but we've got the Windows Commander, which was always a handy file navigation utility. In the recent documents folder, there were some documents in a language I don't understand. I presume these are all work of our friend Tibby. Who could tell? Or possibly no. To be honest, at this point, I'd had enough. We'd peaked too early with that hidden folder, so all that was left was some screensavers, which were interesting at best. I don't know about you, but I'm rooting for the guy on the left to win. And that was it. And now it was time to shut this beauty back down. I do have plans for this machine, great plans, all of which I will share with you in due course. In the meantime, thank you for joining me on this mystery PC investigation. It's been a blast.